All right, all right. Welcome back, brothers and sisters, friends and family, back to the Masterful Conversations podcast, where we learn about leadership from the men who have served or are currently serving as Worshipful Master in a regular lodge of free and accepted Masons. I am Brother Matthew Wagstaff. I'm a past master of Eureka Lodge number 36 out of Rochester, New York. We're currently serving as my Worshipful Master is Brother Jermaine Myers. And I'm with
I am Brother Mark Alexander, proud past master of Sons of Kings Lodge number 123 out of Brooklyn, New York, where the current worshipful master is Brother Kevin Parker.
We both hail from the most worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of the state of New York. We're currently serving as our Grand Master and re-elected Grand Master is most worshipful Darren M. Morton. Congratulations to all the Grand Lodge officers that were recently elected and re-elected back into their leadership chairs, as well as all any brothers that were appointed to the Grand Lodge. So congratulations, brothers. Certainly looking forward to a positive and productive year in the craft. So before we get into the introduction of our guests today, do we have any announcements, Mark?
Nah, I don't have anything.
Anything to share? Okay.
No.
No announcements here either. So let's jump right into the disclaimer.
The information shared in this show is intended for educational entertainment purposes only. The views and opinions are our own. Do not express the views and opinions of our respective lodge or grand lodge. If any specific questions, consult the proper office in your respective jurisdiction.
Absolutely. So today we have past master Les Moore with us. This is a interview that we've been waiting to do over the last couple of weeks. So we appreciate the patience there, but happy to have you here, past master Les Moore. He is from Doric Lodge number 53 out of Hempstead, New York, the third district of
Fourth,
the fourth district, excuse me, the fourth district. Don't get it confused. The fourth district of the
fearless
most
fourth.
all right. The most worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of the state of New York. He served as worshipful master for 3 years in 2011, 2012, and then again, he's a strong man. And then again in 2014, decided to go back into that chair. He is also the current committee chair for the Grand Lodge Amnesty Program of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge in the state of New York. And he has also received the last and final degree of the Ancient Accepted Scottish Rite, the 33rd degree of the Ancient Accepted Scottish Rite. So, Past Master Moore, welcome to the Masterful Conversations podcast.
Thank you. And please cut me off, but I'd like to qualify the fearless fourth district, if I may. The fourth district encompasses Queens County, Nassau County, and Suffolk County. Three of the four counties that are on Long Island. So we're right in the metropolitan area of New York City.
All right. Excellent.
The fourth county is Brooklyn, but
Hey, hey, they're a town of their own.
yeah, I
Yeah, what was it like 5 million people in Brooklyn? 6 million people?
don't think that many, but at
Not
least
that many. I
a
thought it was a
couple of
large.
million.
Yeah,
8 million in the whole city. Don't
City,
give
exactly.
it's
Yeah,
bigger than Rochester. A
that.
lot bigger than Rochester. But anyways, right, past Master Moore, this show is about leadership and your journey. So we would love to hear about your journey in masonry. Starting off, can you tell us a little story about what brought you to masonry? What was the year you were raised in the craft? And then talk a little bit about your journey through the chairs to get to these.
Well, I came into masonry sort of a friend I knew, a coworker I knew, and he invited me to to join his lodge. He said, so and so and so, and he gave me a petition to join his lodge. And I'd never heard of masonry before, nor did I know anything about it. Um, I was sort of a life coach, uh, uh, vice president of the local county PAL, and I had dealt with kids, and all three of my sons had gone through the program, and I was the vice president. I was the director of a youth program. So when he approached me about joining his lodge, I was like, wow, he picked me. That was a great thing. And I was happy. And I don't know, I was bragging to a friend of mine, and I said, I'm going to be a Mason. I'm going to be a Mason. And he said, yeah. And I showed him the petition, held it up in front. Hey, look, I'm going to be a Mason. And he said, let me see that. He read it and he tore it up. He said, join a real organization. I had no idea what it was. I thought all Masons were Masons. He happened to be a Prince Hall Mason, and he was a friend of mine. I knew him for quite a number of years. He's younger than me, and he tore up my petition, and I waited for him to get me another petition from his organization. I didn't know there was a difference, and he came back to me and said, you were too late. Next year."
Okay.
The next year came, and life happens and things happen. And he said to me, "Hey, Les, uh, give me the $150, so you could join the lodge." And I ain't got it right now. I had it, but I wasn't earmarking it to a thing for
Yeah.
myself. And I just said, I ain't got it right now. So the next week I came back, I said, here's the 150. He said, "You too late."
What?
For 2 years. I waited 2 years from 2002 to 2004. And I was like, man, I could have been a Mason if it wasn't for him. But the following year, I made sure that when he asked me for the 150, I gave it to him. So that was back in 2004. And from then on, I proceeded to be enlightened by what Masonry was about, because I had no idea up to then. And I said, oh, okay, this is more of a mentoring program for men. And I've been doing children all this time. So I get it. I get it. Now this is something for me. Because I was
Can you
like, my kids weren't in it no more. So I was doing
can you
other.
go can you go back just a quick second? You were the first petition you got for folks who are listening right now that may not know what just happened in that first part, because we get it. But if someone's listening, like, what do you mean another organ? Why did he rip up the petition and join a real organ? What does that mean?
It was from what we refer to as a clandestine organization. And he gave me the petition. Like I said, the brother offered it to me, and I took it as a compliment. And I hadn't even filled out the thing. I might have seen between the time he gave it to me and the time I saw my friend, past Master Todd Paris, Doric 53. By the time I saw him, he was also an official in the PAL at the time, and he just looked at it and tore it up. I had, you know, I, I had no idea what or different. I thought all Masons were Masons. Anybody said there was a Mason was a Mason. I didn't understand the difference. So
Okay. So you got recruited by a non-Prince Hall or irregular lodge to
yes.
join.
Clandestine.
And the weird thing about that guy that offered me the petition later on joined my lodge.
Okay, cool. Cool,
He was
nice.
there before I got there.
Oh yeah? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I
He
looked
had his
You might have
150.
wound up there anyway.
Yeah.
so that was pretty much the start of my Masonic journey, and from there I learned about what was going. I was electric power lineman. I worked 24 hours, 7 days a week. I didn't work, but I was on call 24 hours,
Okay.
7 days a week. Somebody's without power, call you up. Hey, we got to fix this, and I would go. So the first they offered me after I was raised, they offered me the steward position, and I told them I couldn't do it because of the demands of my job. I didn't know if I could
Mm-hmm.
make every meeting, so it would be crazy for me to take it. So
Yeah.
they made me the assistant steward, and
Okay.
and I could tell you, I was the steward every meeting. I never missed a meeting
Mm.
because of my job. Um, and I went from steward to marshal to senior master of ceremony. That year, I went on my first Grand Lodge trip. I went up. They had it in Rochester. I can't tell
Okay.
you which it was, maybe 2006 or 7, but I know I was the senior master ceremony. And from there, when I was senior master of ceremony, our junior warden got sick. And the two brothers, that was the senior deacon and the junior deacon, the senior and junior deacon, they didn't want it. They didn't want to go any further. And they were saying, like, hey, we need somebody to take this
Junior
brother's
one
place.
spot. Mm-hmm.
Spot. And they were looking at me, and I was like, well, I had planned to go through all the chairs. So
Yeah.
it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a concept for me. I wasn't thinking that way. I know a lot of brothers want to move up, but I wasn't like, hey, I'm going to go through
Mm-hmm.
this. But I was called upon and I accepted it. I volunteered. All right, I'll be it, the junior warden. And I went from there, from junior warden to senior warden. I did run against my worshipful master and lost. And the following year, I became worshipful master in 2011. And at that
So
time, I lost.
you were sent to You were sent to the floor that year.
Yes, I was. I served 1 year as senior warden. The next year, I was back to being a brother. I could tell you something about that that's weird about it, because when you're in the chair and you're doing certain things, and I remember like the meetings over, you take off your jewels and your apron and you put them aside or put them away or whatever. And I remember going to take off my jewels and I didn't have any. So he was like, oh, put my hands in my pocket. But
Hilarious.
I learned a lot in the year that we went back from senior warden to just being a regular brother. I I I came to every meeting. I participated in every event or everything we had, you know. But I still
Nice.
was a voice, you know, in the lodge. I wasn't like I went away and hid, or buried my head in sorrow. It wasn't like that. I was always a part of the lodge. I just felt that it was the time for me to do something, because I had been doing so much that I I really wasn't pleased, or I won't say pleased, but encouraged. And I'll tell you something. When I did lose, uh, we had about we had about 12, 13 guys that regularly participated in the meeting, in our regular lodge meeting.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have, the chairs weren't full. And the night of the election, I should have seen the handwriting on the wall, because it was 33 brothers in there to vote.
They show up on election night for sure.
Yeah, they definitely do.
I'd never seen so many. Where'd they come from? I didn't even know he was a member. But
Yeah.
I lost
How many brothers were on the rolls during the time you were master?
it.
Roughly
I'd say 35 to 45 on the rolls.
on the roll. Okay.
On the rolls. But at the end of my term, we were in the 70s.
Oh,
It's
interesting. Okay.
70. And now Doric is like the fourth largest lodge in the jurisdiction. They were the third at one time. They're behind Boyer, Joppa, Boyer, Adelphic Union. And us and Adelphic Union run neck and neck. I think we got 110 now. And maybe Adelphic Union got 112 or something like that. So it's
Okay. Okay.
like,
When you were going to the chair through the chairs, can you talk a little bit about, if you can remember? So you got raised in 2004.
mhm.
Um, you started as the assistant steward. I never heard of assistant steward before, so this is a first. Um, so
Well, man,
listen up. There's a role for everybody to play. So you can be assistant
Yeah.
anything, right? It's a role.
Yep. Yes, you definitely can. You
So
train
just
people.
know,
Yep. So
Well,
you
train
I
have
people.
was
those
the
numbers.
steward when the steward wasn't there.
Yeah, definitely. So as you were going through the chairs, how were you thinking about your role in the craft? And as you became a warden, how were you thinking about leadership, if at all?
Well, like, I've been the vice president of uh, PAL, Nassau County PAL,
When you say
Roosevelt
PAL, you talking about Police Accountability League or Police Action League?
Athletic.
Police
Athletic.
Athletic League. That is all right.
We switch it from athletic to activity. But yeah, I was the vice president of that. You know, we had baseball, basketball, football, soccer, you know, all those types of sports, bowling, karate, they had all those stuff. But you know, me having three sons, they, you know, they were sports minded, so I got involved in the thing as first as assistant coach, and then I became the vice president by, you know, just by involvement. And it was the same thing in the lodge. I was like the guy, I was always into this and into that and doing this and doing that. And, you know, so it was a natural progression. You know, like I said, I wasn't interested. I never, you know, when I came into the organization, I didn't know that I could be Worshipful Master. And um I I uh I didn't aspire to it. You know, it was only after, oh, you could be Worshipful Master too. I thought whoever was Worshipful Master was it for his life until, you know, he expired. I didn't know it was an opportunity for every brother to have an opportunity. So I just was involved, you know. We raising money, I was raising money, selling tickets, arranging the dance, arranging a party, whatever it was, I was just part of it. And I wasn't thinking about moving up. I really never had that concept in my mind and or whatever. But I did understand that once you got to be Worshipful Master, you had the influence over the decisions of the lodge. You weren't the ruler, you were the servant leader, that you took what brothers wanted to do and you were responsible for making it happen. That's the way I understood it. Um, I don't think we have a lot of that today. People get to Worshipful Master and they think they're the rulers and people listen to them, not they listen to the brothers.
Mm. And so
So they're the first among your equals.
absolutely.
Uh,
When you were senior warden, um, how were you thinking about that next year? 'Cause I know you ran against the Worshipful Master the following year. So how did you think about were you
Really did
preparing for Worshipful Master when you were senior warden? Or how were you preparing for that?
not at all. I wasn't. I had my own ideas of things we needed. We needed everything. So let me tell you, when I got to be Worshipful Master, we were 2 seconds from shutting the door. 2 seconds. I kid you not. We had Doric owns his own building, and the roof was leaking. The heating units had failed. They were going out. The doors were literally falling off. You know, one door was rotted, this door was rotted, so and so, and everything. And every aspect of the lodge needed to be fixed. It was they purchased the building in the 70s and they had made some vast improvements, like the bathrooms are nice and this and that, but everything else was old. Everything was old, and the 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 place hadn't been painted in years indoors, and it hadn't been painted outdoors. It was everything needed to be done, you know. So it wasn't like I was handed a gem. Um, we were always 6 months behind in the taxes on the property. So we pay tax would due twice a year in May and in November. So we paid May taxes in November and November taxes in May and then taxes in November. We were always 6 months behind. And the building was falling apart. So, you know, so when I got there, you know, I tried to come up with new fundraising ideas or things we hadn't done. The heating unit had failed on us. We had no heat in the building. We had a couple of tenants. Um, uh, uh, International Masons also rented there. They moved out. You know, I got elected in December. They were gone in January. We ain't staying in here. Ain't no heat in the building, and they left. So we had no heat in the building. It was just a Merida thing. When it rained, it was buckets all over the place. So we needed a new roof. We needed new heat. We needed everything. So just trying to make it work, make it survive, behind in the taxes, everything. And while I was master, I came to the point where I said, we're not going to survive. We're going to lose the building. And it was going to be lost on my watch because I was the master. And I said, well, let's try to get a 501c. So I initiated the seeking the 501c. I initiated in my first year as master. And December, when I was leaving in 2012, it came to fruition. We were granted a 501c, which removed the building from the tax rolls. And voila. Although that was just the beginning, because it really hadn't clicked or happened in that time period. Uh, we were granted the 501c, but it wasn't enacted until 2014. So we got it in 12, but it didn't it didn't start working for us until 2014, which was part of the reason why I returned in 14, because I had started it and it wasn't in fruition yet. So I had to like shake the tree and make it work.
Now you're talking about a 501c3, right?
Mhm.
And that wasn't exactly the lodge that did that.
What do you mean?
It was through the Prudence Club, correct?
Uh, yes and no,
Mm-hmm.
because the Prudence Club is our square club.
Yeah.
The Prudence Club really handled everything. The lodge owned the building,
Okay.
and we created a new entity, which was the
There you
Prudence Club Foundation,
go.
which
Okay.
today is the Men of Distinction Foundation. Uh,
Okay.
we created that entity, and the lodge sold a building to the 501c for a
Mm-hmm.
dollar,
Yeah.
and that's how we got off the tax rolls. But you know, we just couldn't catch up. In addition to that, we were behind in our taxes. So I also came back to get a loan
Mm-hmm.
to pay off that thing. We got a 5-year loan to pay off our taxes, and the 501c kicked in, and we were off the tax rolls, and we were square one. We had everything started clicking. We were able to get a new heating unit. Uh, when I came back in 14, we put a new roof on the building, and things. Now that we had breathing room, because all our
Mm-hmm.
dues plus the money we earned from our lounge that the lodge had, all that money was focused on paying the taxes and paying, and we really didn't
Mm-hmm.
have any money to fix it up. So we're in the position we are today because of that, and it really was uh changing for us. you know
Definitely. Let me ask you a question going back a little bit. So how was your relationship with the worship master you ran against during that year? Were y'all cool? Everything was straight with that?
we I'll say we were pretty cool when he was the master and I was the senior.
Mm-hmm.
I guess after that we were cordial to each other, but not really friendly. And then
Okay.
after he left as master, we weren't friends at all.
Wow.
We I had no animosity towards him.
Mm-hmm.
He did towards me, and I
Okay.
it just
I
today we
understand.
today we just speak. We're cordial with each other.
Understood. But in general, like you said, you came back and you still supported the lodge. You supported this program even when you ran against them. So, I mean, like you said, you did what all you can
Yeah,
do from that
yeah.
perspective.
And he had a mandate.
Yeah.
I when I ran against him, 33 people came,
Mm-hmm.
11 for me and 22 for him.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
Was it was I was never angry about that. I just felt that it was, the way things were going, and it just wasn't right for me. So I was like, hey, look, I got a different idea how to get us out of this hole we in, because we're definitely in the hole. And
Mm-hmm.
501c, do this, do that, different things. He might have done the same, but
Mm-hmm.
I did it.
Yeah. I mean, the important thing is doing like what you did, no matter what, you just come back and support your lodge. Yeah. You know, everybody just be men and continue on. So
And
that was definitely a good thing.
this, and when I came back in 14, I ran against who was my junior warden.
Okay.
and I beat him, and it was a past master we had at the time was the dean,
Mm-hmm.
who was good friends with him. And when I ran against him, he quit as dean. So that was like, really?
Yeah.
So
So
that's a leadership lesson right there, though. I mean, I think Mark,
mhm,
you've been reiterating it. The fact
Mm-hmm.
that no matter what happens from this, like the personal titles and the roles and the elections and all that stuff, you still put the lodge first, which is the
Yeah.
most important. And so being able to, because I see it a lot, brothers are run against, think they're
Mm-hmm.
ready to move up, don't win, and then you don't ever see them again. But I'm also
Exactly.
seeing brothers also who have lost the race who are still active, which is encouraging. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
great to hear that
well,
you know, were
it's
able to do
got to
that.
be about the brotherhood in the lodge, and that's what I was talking about. My friend, which I told you should interview, but because he always clicks that wheel in me that makes me think. When the brother quit, past master quit, and he had been the dean of instruction for degrees for years.
Mm-hmm.
But I ran against who was the junior warden at the time. That was his friend.
Mm-hmm.
They shared a lot of off time together, and he quit as the so I didn't have a dean. So
Mm-hmm.
while I was master, I was dean. I was the dean and the master, and I was
Mm-hmm.
the dean from then, from that, from 2014 to like 2023. I was the dean of instruction, but I had to take it over. I was the master and the dean, so I was preparing the degree and teaching it
Yep.
at the same
Mm-hmm.
time. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing tricks because my whole mindset at the time, I wasn't I wasn't really into being master. It was I was master because I had to do the work to get the lodge right. You know what I'm saying? It was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
hey, we got to get a loan, we got to get the 501c. That's why I became master, to make the 501c work. But the the auxiliary to that was, hey, you got to give a class. Hey, you got to give a degree. You know, all the other stuff a master do, not the business that I was came back for. So I remember somebody told me, he said, well, we gave, we used to have the third degree in June.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, all right. So we're going to prepare these guys. We're going to give the first degree in February, the second degree in April, and the third
Mm-hmm.
degree in June.
Mm-hmm.
8 weeks, 8 weeks.
Yep.
And that's what I did. But it was tricks to me because I was like, yeah, I was doing. And then I had the guys who had their third degree in June teach and be a part of the first degree to
Mm-hmm.
keep them busy. They gave a first degree in October.
Okay.
So
Nice.
it was like boom, boom, boom.
Yes,
And
you can always get it better when you teach it, when you're trying to learn something. If you can teach it, that means you really got
well,
it
that was
down.
it. That was like that summer school,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
Nice.
You're gonna
before we go to
start.
the next like the staple question, I just wanted to make sure I'm clear. Like when
Mm-hmm.
you were in the seat in 2011 and 2012, your core like your core focus for those first 2 years was establishing the 501c3 organization, or did you have another like what was your trust the main focus of your trust board for those 2 years?
I really, you know, uh, we had a strong past master group who had a lot of influence on me, and they like put ideas in my head. They, they were like, oh, we used to do this and we used to do that and we used to do this. So I was just going to do, because we had done none of it while I was in the line. So
Mm-hmm.
my thing was to do what they did, like bring
Mm-hmm.
back the old times. Oh,
Yeah.
we have dances, we give all the wives a corsage, we did this, we did that, and we used to sit
Mm-hmm.
down, blah, blah. I just try to do what they do. I really didn't have a trestle board of things that I was looking to do other than the large family picnic and so on and so forth. You know.
So
Got it.
basically what you did was reunited the machine.
Yeah, yeah. I just
Reignited
try
the
to
machine.
duplicate what they
Yeah.
did
Mm-hmm.
before. I really didn't have an agenda, you know. the 501c was not like I came up with this, hey, let's do this. It wasn't that. It was the fact that we had to do it or we're going to lose the building. It wasn't on the turn of like, unless somebody's going to give us X amount of dollars to get out of this hole with the taxes and the this and the that, we had money, but we didn't have a lot of money. And all the money we had went towards paying the taxes. So we would, and
Yeah.
we were.
Now, you also made a statement in which I completely understand what you mean, right? You said when you said, when you took over as master, the building was falling apart, whatever, and you wasn't handed a gem. That was what you said, right? Which I completely understand because things wasn't going on. But the question is, were you handed a gem? Because the fact that you had to put in all the work and that would help bring all the brothers around, right? So working on that actually is the thing that brought Doric back. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you were handed a gem
I
in
agree
that
with
sense
that.
of the way. You know what I mean? I was actually
Oh,
talking with past Grandmaster Spears recently, and we talking about how some lodges are doing good, some lodges are doing bad or whatever. But it basically come down. We always hear the statement that Freemasonry is dying, and it's kind of so much that Freemasonry really isn't dying, is that brothers aren't doing the work, and that's why Freemasonry ain't living. As proof in as what you said, when you start doing the work that actually brought the lodge back to life. You know what I mean? So we
well,
have to do the work in order for the lodge to live, lodges to
I,
live, and Freemasonry to live.
I shamefully say I raised 27 brothers while I
Yeah.
was in jail. So I was
Again,
trying to build, I was
yeah,
trying to build
exactly.
a lodge. I
You're
was
trying to
like,
build a
hey,
lodge. Yeah,
You
exactly.
weren't
And
you
you
weren't
got
you weren't you weren't recruiting them with the petitions like they did the first time you
no,
it was like, hey, you want
no,
to
but
join
hey,
masonry? You wasn't doing that, right?
no, I wasn't doing
Okay.
that.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure.
Anybody that said he was interested, I was like, come on.
Yeah. So in
And
other words, brother, like I said, your lodge ain't doing too well. Just reunite and unite the actual
yeah,
work of the lodge. Bring the work back. And
what,
when
what,
work come back,
let me not
the
take credit.
workers are coming.
Wardens and
Yeah.
the brothers that we had in the offices were all working.
Yep.
Everybody was
Of
working,
course.
and
Hmm.
we came from a lodge that couldn't fill the chairs to now
Hmm.
we were filling the chairs, and now we have brothers sitting in the north and in the south.
Hmm.
So it just came about, and people saw that we were moving a positive bunch of men and doing the things that made it to. And my junior warden, or who was my junior warden my first year, he became the master when I left in 15. So I didn't like knock him out of his seat. He just sat on the side for a while, and then he came back and he ran the lodge. So it
Nice. Hmm.
it it wasn't a matter of me running against him as much as it was work that I started that needed to be completed, and the brothers had the confidence that I would do.
Understood 100%.
Mhm.
But just want to make the note because I didn't earlier, but that me and Les Moore are classmates. Yeah, we received our 33rd degree together. JD Shook class of 2022.
Thank
Um,
you.
uh,
Mhm.
one of our staple questions is on the show, what is effective leadership?
Oof. I think it goes back to servant leadership. That you have to find a direction that the brothers want to go and things that the brothers want to do. You know, like one of the things, I was president of my district as well. So I was president of the fourth district. And one of the things I wanted to bring to the fourth district was the fact it was a selfish thing,
Hmm.
because as I told you, I was a power lineman, and our summers were gone. Summer vacation is not for a lineman because that's when they have the storms and the hurricanes and wind and rain and power outages all the time, heat and all of that's going on. So every weekend you like demanded to work. And one of the things that in the fourth district, we used to have nine lodges, nine picnics. It's only 8 weeks in summer, but nine picnics. So every summer, every weekend was some large picnic. So one of the things I did, I said, look, let's get together and have nine picnics in one place, all on the
Hmm.
same day. Every lodge had their own picnic. You there, and that way I could visit all the lodges. It was selfish
Nice.
because
Hmm.
that many weekends. But it was something that they agreed for. Then it turned into a district picnic, whereas now look, one size fits all. We all get together and have a picnic together. It's no longer 9, it's 1. But that was the beginning of that. And our divine service, same thing. Everybody had a divine service. Then we had one district divine service. So those are two things that I accomplished as the president of the district. And that was not so much me telling them what to do, but suggesting that this is what we could do and it'll make it better for everyone. And that would free up everyone's summer and everyone would have attendance and socialize and everything. But effective leadership is really doing what the brothers want and seeing what we can improve or where we can take our organization, our lodge to the next level, you know. You can't, everybody has an idea, and all ideas are good. Some are not as good as others, and some just not what we should be doing right now. But you gotta listen to your brothers, be smart enough to pick the right way, and you know, what they want to do. Because I tell brothers this, and they always misinterpret what I was saying. When I said my greatest fear when I was in master was I would hold a meeting and no one would be there. So they thought, or people believe that I mean that I call a meeting and no one's there. I meant that I wasn't doing the job, so nobody came. That's what I mean. So I had to do the work to attract the crowd. Because if I was not doing the work, then nobody would come. So I always worked hard to make the meeting good so that the brothers would want to come. Because if they didn't want to come, then I'd be there alone. And I said, that's the worst feeling. Like, yeah, we're going to talk about such and such, and you get to the meeting, where is everybody? They're not interested because you're not feeding them, you're not doing anything for them. So that's a big thing.
I got the chance to attend one fourth district picnic. The first concept when you initially started with each lodges coming together seemed actually pretty cool to the extent too, to have each lodge have like all in the park and all be next to each other like in a round. I don't know if it was like that, particularly in a round circle when you travel around. It's almost like mid-year. You go from room to room.
Yeah, yeah. We
So
were
that's
all
pretty
in the
cool.
same. Wasn't
Yeah,
like we were spread out. It
yeah,
was
yeah,
like
exactly.
9 grills.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's real cool.
You
That's
know,
real cool. You go around.
somebody had lobster, somebody had shrimp, somebody had
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anybody have that little circle or
yeah,
whatever. I mean, they visit each other. That's a pretty cool concept.
yeah. I did like it, but hey,
Hmm.
that was what I liked.
Hey, it's permanently cemented now. Now we got this to refer back to. So this is a note.
Yeah.
Districts, hey, if you're trying to come together,
Hmm.
find a big open space, bring however many lodges,
Hmm.
Yeah,
tents. So in the 7th district, we got six lodges in the 7th, 6 tents, or it's
yeah.
Something to that nature. Yeah.
Good way. And I know y'all up in
oh,
Rochester, but if y'all said like, I went up there one time. I visited up there with Walter King. It was also Greg Smith. I don't remember the positions they had, but they were Grand Lodge officers at the time. And we went up there, and we went to a dance. One lodge had it, and it was on a battleship. And
yeah,
then
I'll see the picture. I remember the picture. They do 110. They do a pig roast.
Okay.
we went to a park.
That's Ionic, right? Was that was
No,
no
Mastercraft in
Master
110.
Craftsman? Okay.
Yep.
Hmm.
I don't remember that, but I'm saying we
Hmm.
did the boat one day, and then the next day we did the picnic in the park, and then we went back. We all headed south. But that kind of thing, like they had the what do you call it, the gazebo, and
Hmm.
everybody was gathered around and they were cooking over there. So that type of thing, like where everybody gets together, and you, your lodge brings a group, his lodge brings a group, my lodge brings a group. It it could work. Like I said, you get to visit every
Hmm.
one day and do your own thing too. So yeah,
Hmm.
Hmm.
it's pretty good.
Yeah.
You
Did
know,
you bring the sisters? Were the chapters in there?
uh, sisters are always invited. You know, we always used to have a like I said, a Doric thing. It would be, I called it the Doric and Deborah family reunion. The
Mm-hmm.
name has since changed to the Doric family picnic, but you know, it's the same thing.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, very much so. Which mentors did you have during your time in the East, or just in Freemasonry in general?
Oh, I had great ones.
Mm-hmm.
I had Past Master Kelsey, who's still an active past master. He's 20 years my senior, so he's 89 and I'm 69, soon to be 70.
Mm-hmm.
Father's Day, y'all. So he was one, and then it was past Master Saxon, who's passed on. Um Most of those past masters have passed on,
Mm-hmm.
and Don Batson was another. You know, I had a great bunch of past masters. I like I said, I joined at 49, so these guys were like 10 to 20 years older than me, and they just, you know, they were supportive of me. There's another one still here. Oh man, oh, I can't remember his name, so I won't mention. But we had, you know, it was a great core of past masters, and their thinking was different. I'll
Mm-hmm.
say different. It was more about like the lodge. Everything was about the lodge. Everybody thought about it, constantly wanting to improve it, wanting to get it back to where it was in its heyday and things like that. They used to tell me they would have a dance at the townhouse or whatever, and after the dance, they all came back to the lodge, and somebody cooked breakfast, you know, bacon and
Wow.
eggs in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't go home and whatnot. It, they had Halloween parties, you know, in the lodge, and dressing up, and cowboy nights, and like, I just wanted to have it be what it was, because I never experienced it, but I wanted to, you know,
Mm-hmm.
do it for them. Like, hey, we used to do this, so I
Mm.
wanted to do that. So my mentors, you know, they poured a lot of what I did. It came from them. I was just like the person to do it. You know,
So you
you
did
know,
a lot of programs that they offer or they share with you. You did that during your 3 years as worshipful master. Essentially, you kind of brought the old school back almost,
Mm-hmm.
that old
we
feeling back.
we did a couple of new things. Like we hadn't had a dance in years, and I brought back the dance. They were big on Christmas, and they used to throw a Christmas party for the kids. And then Todd, my past master, he brought up, like, I remember they were, at the time it was like every lodge used to have to send their representatives to 454 for Thanksgiving, to serve Thanksgiving dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And Todd said, "Well, we got hungry people in right here.
Mm-hmm.
We want to feed the people in our community." And the Grand Master at that time gave him, "Go ahead, do it. We want pictures, and we want, you know." So we
Mm-hmm.
did it. It was like a tradition. He started it. I carried it on. You know, so
Excellent, excellent.
still going
For
on
for
to.
those who are listening right now who may not know what 454 is, that's our Grand Lodge address, in Harlem, New York.
Yes,
New York.
That's where
Mm-hmm.
the Grand Lodge is.
454 West 155th Street. Most
Hmm.
worshipful
Mm-hmm.
Prince Hall Grand Lodge.
Yes, yes. Um, I want to ask.
For those that watch, what's the name of that show with where they had it, Le Grand Lodge was the mosque.
Oh
Um,
yeah, Godfather Harlem.
yeah, Godfather Harlem. Yeah,
Ah, okay.
that
That
mosque
was
and
that,
that show
that
is our
was
Grand Lodge.
that was our Grand Lodge. They
Mm-hmm.
pictured
Nice.
it as Moss number 7 or what it.
Mm-hmm.
Were the doors gold?
I
Think so.
don't remember. I'm watching it again. It's in its fourth season, but anyway.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I want to ask you a question about when you got out the seat in 2014 or 2015. How did you show up as a past master? And how did you interact with your lodge as a past master after you got out the seat the last time?
Hmm. That's a funny time, because at that time when I came out to see, The Grand Master was Dorian Glover, and he was a brother in my lodge. So the Grand Master was a brother in my lodge. And when I came out to see, he just said, "You're coming with me," and he put me on his staff. So I was like, I was with the Grand Master as part of his staff, and I was also a past master in the lodge. So I attended lodge meetings and put my input where I could, and dealt with the daily activities, the operation, the this, the that, the things that we had going on. So I was involved, but I was also out of the lodge, you know, period. So I had input, but not that much influence because again I was working for the Grandmaster.
Got it. So it wasn't one of those things where you're out the seat and it's sort of like, all right, who do I listen to now? The brothers weren't too confused because you were off doing your Grand Lodge
Oh, no,
activities and the Worshipful Master was doing this thing with the lodge. So it was never that clash.
no, I've never had that kind of a clash with the masters who followed me. Um, more I've definitely had clashes with them, but that was more on a personal level. Like, you know, I don't think this is right, or I don't think that is right, but
Yeah. Yeah.
never like had a thing with, oh, we're following less and not that guy. No, that was never a problem.
Okay.
Master, master, I believe in that
Okay.
100.
We got a couple minutes left before we wrap up, but we asked a couple things around your proudest moments in the East, and we got a couple more questions. But some of your proudest moments that you can recall when you were in the East.
Wow. I don't I can't think of anything I'm most proud of that I did in the East. If maybe the 501c that saved the lodge, but
Well, saving the lives seems pretty significant. You on mute, Mike? Oh,
I
Mark.
mean, like, I got to think about it because I'm trying
Mm.
to think of something else.
Look, and
And
bringing back like 35 people, or how many people you initiate?
I
well,
mean,
then our lodge got better and we were more
Mm.
wholesome. Like I said, from being a little guy to the third or fourth biggest is a big thing, and we're a satellite lodge. Those three lodges are right there in the Grand East.
Nice. Hmm.
mhm.
We're a satellite. We're not. There's nobody else in the building but us. That's it. You know.
One thing is good about Doric particularly is because they're out there in Hempstead, so they are 1% community focused too. So they help out the community and things like that, as a lodge should do for its city in which it sits. So at one time they also had the mayor two or something like that at Hempstead in your lodge, right?
Yeah, we've had three mayors.
Three mayors, yeah, three mayors at
Current
Hempstead within the
current
lodge.
mayor is a brother. If you
Hmm.
know Right Worshipful Nabar Colbert,
Hmm.
he and the current mayor,
He's the mayor? Nah.
he, Right Worshipful Nabar Colbert, who's a
Hmm.
Grand Lodge trustee,
Yep.
and the current mayor were classmates.
Okay. Nice.
They came in together,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
Nabar's his grand trustee, and he's the mayor of the village of Hempstead. So, hey, who's got a better career?
Ah, nice,
Yeah,
nice.
that's
But
definitely good.
we had Mayor Hall. He
Hmm.
was also a member, and Mayor Garner, the first black mayor of in in Nassau County, was um, James Garner, who was still a
Hmm.
member. Also, you know, Doric being in Hempstead, there are many Masonic lodges in Nassau County, but Doric
Hmm.
is the only Prince Hall lodge in Nassau County in the
Yep.
whole. So it's a big county. Nassau is about as big as Brooklyn and Queens together, so it's big.
It's
Um,
Grand Lodge Estate Lodges out there.
yes,
That's all.
yeah,
Okay. Hmm.
there's several. There's several of them. You know.
Okay. Yeah, because it was way I was worded, because it's kind of like that in a lot of places. Particularly like you say in Brooklyn where we meet at, we have a few different lodges, so we can't say it's a one lodge, but when a lodge meets in 70 Penn, one of our lodges, That's the representative of Prince Hall Masonry, and sometimes just masonry, genuine, regular masonry in Brooklyn. If a Grand Lodge of New York Lodge is in meeting at that time, so that's why there's a whole bunch of other Masonic organizations. But as far as regular organizations, there's only two, particularly in Brooklyn. That's ours on Pennsylvania Avenue, and Grand Lodge New York has one off of Ralph Avenue. So, that's the way I always think about it. So I always want each lodge to put forth its best effort and to be as great as it can, because whenever that lodge meets, that's a representative of Freemasonry at that time.
Right, right. So I visited several 23rd Street Grand Lodge in New York Grand Lodges.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much they know me as well as I know them, and they've come back and they visited Doric because of it.
Mm-hmm.
One of our past masters had left 23rd, had left the Grand Lodge of New York,
Mm-hmm.
um, and became a member of Doric.
Mm-hmm.
He knew people from that organization, Grand Lodge of New York, who would come to visit him, and
Mm-hmm.
by the way, they would visit us, and we would go
Yes.
back and visit them. And I started to visit them and visit this one and visit that one and visit this one. And I
Mm-hmm.
knew a friend of mine, I met him through work, that he at the same time was joining the Grand Lodge of New York out in Oyster Bay, which is all the way up on the North Shore. You can look across the Long Island Sound and see Greenwich. That's how far north they are.
Mm-hmm.
So they're up there, and he was joining that lodge, and I'm saying, like, you should join Prince Hall. Well, these are the guys I live with and work with, and da da da. And he told me all of that, and like, okay. And when he went to, he was going through his degrees at the same time as Right Worshipful Colbert and the mayor
Mm-hmm.
were, and they made their third degree in April, and he made his in May, and we went over and watched him,
Nice.
and we that formed a friendship, with Matinecock 806, which is actually President Teddy Roosevelt's lodge.
Oh, nice. Good
That was
trivia. Good trivia right there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Make sure you mark
Matinecock.
that down. Hey, I want to ask a question though about, because this was in our chat for our jurisdiction recently about traveling and visiting lodges. How important do you think it is to travel, visit, whatever you want to label it? I don't care. Just getting outside of your lodge as a leader in the craft.
Great
I
question.
think it's very important. It's of the utmost important. Something I taught as a dean, is something I taught as master, something I taught as a past master. I tell preach, travel with the Worstful Master, travel with the Grand Master. I've traveled to several jurisdictions: Maryland, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, DC, all with the sitting grandmasters. I can't tell you which one I did which with. Some
Mhm.
I did more than once, but I've been to all those places with the grandmaster in it, part of his what do you call it?
Entourage.
So I've done that. And when I went, I would like, hey, I'm going to uh Grand Lodge in New York, Lodge over here. Who's coming with me? I would ask brothers. And one of the things I teach also, I say, ask them. It's harder for them to tell me, no, Mark, would you come with me to such and such? Matt, would you come with me to such and such? And it's harder for you to say, nah, Les, I got, they would more or less agree and come with me.
Mm,
I believe in travel because you're going to see other people do the work that you do in your lodge. You're going to see how they do it, and you're going to see how they do it differently. Traveling to grand lodges, you see how they do grand honors. Grand honors is completely different. What their sign of fidelity is different from ours. In the Grand Lodge in New York, they do four signs when they open and close the lodge. People
hmm
don't know that. They never seen it. What are they doing that for? And I got to shush them. Yo, we do what we do in our jurisdiction. We don't do what
hmm
they're doing. You know, when they're giving grand honors, they're giving grand honors to us or somebody else. But it's not for us to give grand honors because this isn't our place. So you
hmm
learn stuff like that. You see different things, and you travel different. I went to Texas. I went to 2 of their lodge meetings. They don't do a closing and an opening. I told him, I said, well, I'm here. I don't have a lecture to give, but I want to share with you what we do in our lodge. Let me show you how we do the closing. So I did
Charge, you mean?
the closing charge,
Mm-hmm.
not the complete closing, the
Mm-hmm.
closing charge. One of the things I noticed is that they don't, their sign of fidelity is they salute, and they salute as we
Mm-hmm.
do at the altar.
Yeah.
That's their sign. And then they talk free-handed. There's,
Mm-hmm.
there's no hand in place. They
Yeah.
just salute and then they talk free. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, he's not, but that's how they do it. The sign, they give the sign and then they talk
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
with both hands.
Yeah.
So it's it's different. You can't learn if you're home. You don't know how good you are if you can't compare yourself. I go to I go to Sons of Kings and sit down and watch them do the work, and I'm saying, oh, that senior deacon, he's tight, he's tight. And if I'm the senior deacon, I'm like, I got to get it down like him.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you see, he ain't as good as me. Poking your chest, chest. So you can't learn that if you don't travel.
Bring back the competition,
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
friendly
Mm-hmm.
competition
Yeah,
yes.
definitely.
in the work, and then
Mm.
have some
No,
fellowship afterwards.
noble contention. That's what it's
Noble,
called. Noble
noble
contention.
contention. Who
And
can best
Les.
work and agree?
I want to address this one point that
Mm-hmm.
someone said to me. He said, like, we're not losing members in masonry.
Mm-hmm.
We still got the same members because once a mason, always a mason.
Mm-hmm.
We're losing dues payers and active participants. That's what we're losing because they're still masons. And I can tell you
True.
that from the Amnesty Program. They're
Yeah.
still there. They're still
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
wake up that nerve in them to get them active again. They need something to come for. Because right now, all we're coming for is we're glorified ticket sellers. I sell you one, you sell him one, and I buy one from him, and we're not even getting outside money. We got the same money.
Yeah,
Just
Yeah,
rotating around.
I'm not accepting that title as you labeled it, but I understand what you
Yeah, I
mean
know what
by
you
it.
say. What you mean? Mm-hmm.
It
hey,
is
as soon as the guy comes in,
it is interesting though.
go to a dance. We go to a dance. Yo, get that guy to sell the raffle tickets.
Yeah.
Here's 5 tickets for the dance. Sell these. Or here's
Mm-hmm.
5 tickets for a raffle or prize. So
Hmm.
that's what we're doing now. We're really not teaching brothers masonry and brotherhood. The brotherhood is loving one another. The brotherhood is helping one another. The brotherhood is wishing the best for one another. The brotherhood is trying to help that brother be better. The brotherhood is not scolding him, is teaching him and hugging him and loving him and going to visit a brother instead of texting happy birthday. Going to see a brother in the hospital instead. Brother brought this up. You were there, Mark. Happy
Mm-hmm.
thinking.
Yep.
He said, like, you know, we I was taught that when you go to visit a brother in the hospital, bring $5. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
And
Me
why do you
too.
bring $5? Because you
Mm-hmm.
bring that $5 to help him out. You're gonna pay for his TV while he's in the
Mm-hmm.
house. You're gonna get him some snacks or whatever, so that
Mm-hmm.
he something. He's down trying to help him get back up. So we gotta
Exactly.
concentrate more on those things than we do on raising money for people and whatever.
You just said something again. It's I had this thought today after listening to a podcast where you just mentioned about like uh sparking something in the brother, right? In order to get out and get him to get active. Now, it's a flip on what we commonly think of a lot of the times. Because most of the times, as Freemasons, we think of passions as something negative, right? So we also do have positive passion, things that we are passionate about. So sometimes we can use those passions that we have in the craft, so you actually are using the passions in order to get a better positive output than just thinking about something in order to control our passions or something that we thinking of it as a negative way. Sometimes we need to think of positive ways to use our passions in order to better the craft. It's basically like you were saying, sparking the fire within brothers, because the fire is the passions. So even with that, of course, we can't go too far with it as we keep it under control. So too much of a good thing is a thing too. You can drink too much water and still die. so so that's a different way to look at that. I was actually thinking about that today. One thing that you said you earlier that you actually joined the craft when you was 49, right? Now I'm 49 now, so I've been in the craft for a while. So I can't
Yes.
imagine just joining the craft and continuing on with the things. But how did you handle the balancing of family at that time? Particularly I know you had a set with everything at that
Well,
time.
in fact, I'm 49.
Mm-hmm.
I was 49.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, my oldest son, I have three sons.
Mm-hmm.
The oldest is 45.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is 43, and the youngest is 37. So I have really pretty much taken care of raising them. They
Mm-hmm.
were men. Of course, I was still a father in the household and a husband to my wife and
Mm-hmm.
whatever. She used to like call me Mr. Mason or friends me Mr. Mason because I was in. Uh, you
Love it.
know, she never joined the Eastern Stars, nor does she have an interest in joining. It was just not her thing, and she wasn't against it. I told her we're going somewhere. She got new shoes and a dress. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you got her
Mm-hmm.
hair nails done. Hey, so where we going?
Mhm.
Oh, he's doing his Mason thing.
But she got something out of it too.
Yeah,
She got a chance to get around, meet some people, have a good
um,
time with you,
I went.
enjoy you having growing as an individual, as a man, becoming better and enjoying your time on earth, which is actually a positive thing too.
We went to the Caribbean 3 times. I went to
Look
the
at that.
Grand out of the Caribbean 3 times. We went to Antigua once, St. Martin another time, and Barbados another time. So
Hmm.
yeah, Caribbean vacations. I was doing Mason. She was on the beach. She
Nice, nice. Is it true that there's a I know that there's the Prince Hall Monument in Cambridge in Massachusetts outside of Harvard. Is there one in Barbados? I heard that there was a monument in
yes,
Barbados. There is one in
it's a
Barbados? Okay.
bus. It's a bus. It's about that tall, that wide, and it sits on a what do you call it?
Like a pedestal, basically.
On a pedestal.
Okay,
Hmm.
good, good, good.
It's
Uh
about it stands about 6 feet tall. It's
so
not. It's not.
brothers, if you have not traveled to Barbados, I have not traveled to Barbados. That's on the list. Try to make it to see that. And if you're in the continent of the United States, get to Massachusetts as soon as possible, especially if you're in the Northeast, and see the Prince Hall Monument that's outside. I think it's right next to the tree where George Washington had the troops for like the Revolutionary War or something like that. Was one of the stories that they said, like where they have the three pillars for Prince Hall. Is right. It's a
Yeah,
tree, like literally right next to it. And that allegedly is where George Washington brought the
yeah,
troops together for the Revolutionary War, something like that. So it's a
yeah.
lot of history over
Something like
there.
that. I do remember that going there, but it's something
One of
like
the,
that. They do have another monument, I think, of George
Yeah,
Washington somewhere close to that. Yep.
I've been to Boston three different occasions. I've never gone to see
Hmm.
the monument or whatever. I was
yeah.
traveling.
It's right outside of.
So
It's in Cambridge
you
Commons
didn't go see
in Harvard.
Prince Hall gravesite either, Les?
Never.
Oh man, you gotta do
I was there.
I gotta get there too. I haven't been there, but I gotta
that.
get there.
Yeah, but one of the things I was going to tell you that there is a sister that it's on YouTube or whatever where she gives the tour and
Hmm.
she the full description of Prince Hall and
Hmm.
the lineage and the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts, most worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Massachusetts. So they give all that.
And
So
as
it's
a sister, you mean it's not an OES sister though. I don't think she's OES. Yep. It's a
Black
historian,
woman.
black woman. Hmm.
black
Which
woman.
is which I listen, I thank you to
No,
her and to all the people out there in the world that's actually putting a positive, well, showing a positive, I'm gonna say putting it, showing a positive spin of Freemasonry from our history, the great people we had in our craft. We had a couple of videos that went around recently. Like I think it's David Productions on Instagram. He has a lot of great videos and he did it recently, and a couple other sisters have done spin on Prince Hall and other prominent members we have, Lewis Hayden, things like that within our organization. So just want to say thank you for that.
So one of the
Absolutely.
things that, since we're talking about Prince Hall, and I just want to say this because this was put in my mind by a brother, Worshipful Jerry Cotton, past master of North Star #1 in Chicago. What he said was that we have to promote Prince Hall. No one's going to do it for us. No one knows who Prince Hall is. So when we start having these scholarships and write an essay scholarship, you should have them write an essay on Prince Hall, because that's the way the word's going to get out when people realize who that man was and why we pay homage to him by naming our organization after him. So that should be put out there. We should start promoting who is Prince Hall, and the best way to do it is through our essay contests or whatever.
Excellent. Duly noted for sure. Last question, Past Master Moore, before we wrap up. We are in the year 2025. Next year 2026. I know that
No,
you're not trying
you
to.
don't know. He's trying to run. Les is getting that itch again.
Okay, all right. Hey, he got that itch again. Sometimes the head start like, I want that hat on again. I want
that.
you start getting that old thing back, that feeling
um,
back, huh? But
Past Grand Calvin
anyways,
Martin said that at the last Grand Law session. He put the hat on. He's like, this feels good.
yeah. Who was that? Past Grandmaster Calvin Martin. I think was like, I like that hat. I like the way the hat is on. But if you were to go back into the East in Doric Lodge number 53, knowing what you know now about Masonry, knowing what you know now about Doric, and knowing what you know now about yourself, what would you focus on in 2026 as Worshipful Master?
Well, let me convince you this. Like I said, on Sunday, Father's Day is my 70th birthday. I have no intention nor desire to ever run for
Yeah,
Worshipful Master.
Of
hypothetically.
course, hypothetically. You just messing
So
with your
That's
list.
all hypothetical.
yeah, I would focus on making someone else Worshipful Master. I would focus on teaching someone else the ropes on how to do it, on what I've learned. I, my time has came and went. It's never coming again. And if if we have to have, we have to teach our heirs, just like you teach a son, whatever. I have one son who is a brother in the lodge. He is my middle son, is a master mason. He went to he became the junior warden in my lodge, and then when it was time for him to go to senior, he stepped down. He said, "I got to do something for me before I can do something for you." And
Mm,
at 38, he went back to law school. He's a lawyer now. So
nice.
he's 43 today. He's a brother in Doric, dues paying member. He lives in Atlanta. He has his practice in Atlanta. He's back and forth here every month or every other month. But putting into him what it takes to be the master, teaching him all I learned. He taught me a lot. While I was master, he was my senior deacon. He taught me a lot. Yo, Dad, don't do it. But that kind of knowledge from being a master, that's what I have to give. I don't have I don't have the desire to do anymore. That's gone. I want to see you do well, but I don't want to do it anymore. I did it 3 times, and the third time I did it, I was bored. I was amusing myself. I had a job to do, and I was doing just that. That's all I was concentrating on, getting the roof fixed, getting the such and such, getting that done. I was concentrating on that. I did everything that you master's supposed to do, but that wasn't what I wanted to do.
So
You
you were
know,
focused primarily on succession planning and really making sure that the next person up was prepared. So you would delegate a lot of that. The fourth term, you would delegate a lot of the responsibilities during that fourth term will be your main focus.
I would teach people.
Teach.
I
Got
don't
you.
know. I don't know if I would delegate because I really don't want to be that person anymore. We're not going to grow if Les comes back. We're not going to grow. We can only grow is if we have somebody to take over. Because one day I'm going to die, and we're all going to die. But if you don't have nobody to take over, the institution is going to die. So you got to teach
Hmm.
somebody to do what you do. You got to put it in them. And I would if I was elected, I would respectfully decline. And I would say, I want him to do it. But I walk side by side with him through everything he has to do. Let him do it until till I fall away, to take the training wheels off and he's riding on his own. But none other than that. When I sat in the East, my mentors sat in the East with me, and they would every week. He was a past district deputy. Come up, sit with me every week. Come up and sit with me. One week I forgot to tell him, and he stayed on the side, and I realized, oh wow, he ain't here. You know, so same thing with riding a bike. They hold a seat, and you're riding alone, and then you look back and nobody's holding the seat, and you fall. But hey, you gotta keep riding, bro.
Exactly.
What is this institution? My job in this jurisdiction is to bring brothers to the fore, enlighten them about what we are about and what we do. And we just got to do a better job of putting what we do out to the public.
Understood. Past Master Moore, we thank you for being on the show this evening. Highly appreciate you sharing your story. I'm sure that brothers have got something from this that they can help them out in their individual journeys as a Mason and as a man. You have blessed us with a couple of definitely good gems that we could take home and improve on and shine up and help ourselves become better. Things like servant leadership. As a servant leader, you got to identify what brothers want and see what they want to do and move on that. That's the easiest way to get everybody involved. It's, getting everybody to see what they could contribute, seeing how, we can improve again as a lodge. One thing is important, and all ideas are worth at least being heard. They might not be able to get worked at this time, but everybody, idea is worth being heard, because even if you don't take the full idea, you're gonna take a part of it and move it around or whatever it is. But
And
that communication, yep,
something
that
good in
yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, finding that good part in that particular idea that can help your lodge go to another level. So, brothers, don't be scared to share those ideas. Most of all, definitely just a large focus. So it's large an organization above your own personal needs, wants, as far as that organizationally. Of course, we got to survive as individuals, but as far as, just the organization itself, the imperial potentate Tommy Hughes actually said that recently in his State of the Domain video that he has on YouTube. And basically those same words, I'm not a noble, but it's public information, so I'm gonna find it. So yeah, if nobles, if you haven't, and daughters, if you haven't seen it, that's on YouTube. Just search State of the Domain and you see what your imperial potentate has to say about that.
I'm a noble.
Yeah, definitely. Um, and also one thing, the last thing I want to say, you can't learn from home. Whether that's traveling outside the different jurisdictions or even learning your Freemasonry in your own lodge. You can't learn from home. Freemasonry was developed in a particular way in which mouth to ear uh, was what get the organization going. And if doing some philosophical studies, that's done for a particular reason. So, that's always important. And also with that, it helps develop the relationship between people. So we need to be around each other in order for us to grow um, and learn. So, Past Master Moore, we definitely thank you for those lessons. And we look forward to your continued wisdom and imparting it to the brothers of the craft.
I appreciate you too as well. I want to point out something to you. It's
Mm.
something we do in a Doric Lodge, and we also do it in the Doric study class. You know
Mm.
how we always say, any joy and happiness?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That came from the Grand Lodge in New York. They do,
Mm-hmm.
and we just adapted doing it. So after sick and distress, so we always on a high note.
Mm-hmm.
I have any joy and happiness they want to share. That's from
Nice,
travel.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
I think we
Mm-hmm.
call it glad tidings over here
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Right.
So
Glad tidings. That's what it
Yeah.
is.
good
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Good
Mm-hmm.
stuff. I
But
want
it
to
was we didn't have that practice until then. This
yeah,
is
Mm-hmm.
take
it is a good practice to respect those who are sickness and distress, and then also celebrate those those things that we want to celebrate. So having that balance, always having that duality, that balance is, I think, is important as well. I also want to echo Mark's sentiments, Master Moore. Thank you for all that you do for the craft. We appreciate the work that you do as the committee chair for our Amnesty Program, bringing brothers back into the fold. I personally witnessed you travel all the way up to old Buffalo, New York, 7 hours from where you are, 6.5, 7 hours in winter, in February. You know, that's pretty bold to come up here in February.
Dedication.
Well, I,
Dedication to do to
I
do the
went
work.
back. They said, hey, we do it in February. I said,
Yeah. So thank you for doing the work. That commitment is super important. Always showing up as a brother in these different spaces. I'm big. I'm heavy in the ritual, and at the same time, I've never heard a brother say, "I've stayed in masonry because I know the middle chamber." Like they stay because of the relationships, and I appreciate your relationship. I appreciate working with you and just learning more about you over the years. I appreciate the study class that you do for Doric, the virtual study class. So that's a way of traveling without physically going because I've met brothers that I would probably never meet across the United States and outside the United States because of the class that you lead and that Doric has endorsed. So thank you, right,
Well,
Worshipful
Brother
More, for that.
Beasley.
you may not never meet, but some you have met because I know I have met a
For
few and
sure.
going through traveling, so that's always a good thing too. So
For
you meet them
sure.
online, and most of the time they recognize me more than I recognize them. I think it's just the locks.
Might be. It might be. It might
You
be.
know.
Brother Beasley came. He's from Chicago, North Star #1. He lives in Maryland.
Hmm.
Spent the year up there with you.
Yeah,
Hmm.
he was in Rochester for about a good year,
Yeah.
doing some work here. So we welcomed him into the lodge. So Past Master Keith Beasley, if you're listening to this right now, huge shout out to you. Thanks for all that you brought to Rochester when you came here. We learned a lot from you in that experience for sure. So for all those who are listening right now, like, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you listening. Please share this episode with anybody who you think would receive any good information from it. Past Master Moore has certainly given us some things to think about as we go through our journey. We always like to say that the world needs leaders, and leadership starts with learning how to lead yourself. You cannot lead anyone else until you learn how to lead yourself. So please take the words that you heard today and apply them in your life, whether you are in the craft or outside of the craft. Use what you learned today to help make yourself a better person overall. Until the next time, take care.